Hey everybody out there in cyberspace, thank you so much for tuning in to yet another amazing video created by yours truly, Eddie the Tattooed Realtor. So before we begin, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment. I'd love to hear from you. I'd love to have you as a subscriber, and I'd love for you to like this video. So this video is about condominiums. The reason why I want to make this video in particular about condos is that condos can be a tricky son of a gun. In particular because of the complexities within that buying process or selling process of a condo. Now, condominiums, condos, apartments, flats, whatever you call them, are usually tied to a couple of things. So we're gonna take a step back and I'm gonna walk through a process so that it's an easier understanding for all of us. So first of all, condominiums. Condominiums are usually in a bigger building. There's multiple ones of them. They're governed by a condo association. I'm actually outside filming, that's why you hear that. So they're actually governed by a condo association, and they have usually association dues. They usually have a board of directors or like a board of electees, you know, president, vice president, secretary. There's usually voting involved. There are restrictions that fall into condos as well. They do restrict and limit what you can and cannot do as a homeowner. They can be a great option for those of you looking for less maintenance obligations on yourself. It's a little different than owning a single family home. So those are some of the basics. Now let's approach it from both sides, buyer and seller. First, we're gonna approach it from the seller side. So if you have a condominium, obviously you remember what it took to get into that condominium, all the different headaches and hurdles you had to jump over, applications, cash, all that kind of stuff. If you have a condo and you're looking to sell it, and it's been a little while since you've spoken to your association, I recommend you do the following. First of all, go to your association and get the most recent condominium documentations. Here in South Florida, where I'm located, there are usually 5 documents involved with that little packet, 5. Articles of incorporation, year-end finances, questions and answers, and there's a couple others. I can't remember right off the top of my head, but it's usually 5. If you go to your condo association, you ask them, I need a recent copy of the condo documents, they'll give them 2. Sometimes they'll cost you money, sometimes they'll be in digital format, so be sure to bring a flash drive or be sure to have an email set up so you can get those. The reason why you want those kind of first is because you want to make sure you have a clear understanding of the finances of the condominium, any new rules or regulations that have been in place since you purchased, if you're not aware of them, and just anything in general. The second thing to understand also is you definitely want to attend some of the meetings in terms of understanding any special assessments that may be upcoming or that you're already paying. Special assessments are things beyond the assessment or the association fee that you have to pay. They're usually split evenly among all the condo owners. So if there's like $1 million and there's 100 units, it's split evenly among the condo owners. And then what happens is it's given a time frame or a balloon that it needs to be paid off by. Well, that's definitely important. You also want to check out the finances or the reserves that your building holds. Buildings have a tendency not to hide this information. You just got to kind of look for it or ask about it. Some condos do a great job in their management. They manage internally. Some do not do the best. They manage externally, and it can be plus or minus. So whatever the case may be, the point is that you need to understand where the finances of the building sit, how much they have in reserves. The reserves affect what sort of mortgage products the condominium can accept or what mortgage products are allowed in that particular building. Meaning that if you're a seller of a condominium, but the condominium doesn't have enough reserve or enough cash in it required by a bank, a mortgage, in order to use, like, let's say an FHA product, which is a 3.5% down plus closing cost product, then it might make it a little more exclusive to the people working in cash or a conventional product. The other thing to be conscious of is the amount of leasing that you can do. Sometimes condominiums, as a seller, you may not know how often your condo can be rented, if it can be rented at all, or if there's a restriction for new ownership on renting. Some condos I've seen in particular, usually they require 1 year of ownership, then they allow you to rent. Here in Margate, I know there's one building in particular that requires 3 years of ownership and then to rent, which in my opinion is a little ridiculous, but to each his own. So definitely check on that. Once you've kind of gathered the information, obviously I've created a videos previously about, you know, wanting to make sure to know everything before the home is listed, cleaning it up, getting the right agent involved, realtor involved, excuse me, getting the right digital media, creating the right marketing campaign, and I'd be more than happy to elaborate on that privately, or if you have any questions, feel free to call, text, or email, and I made a previous video about that. So I'm focusing predominantly on condos. So as a condo seller, you definitely want to make sure to cover all your bases there. There are, of course, other particular bases based on type of community, whether or not it's a 55+ community or a HOPA community, you know, the Housing Older People's Act, you know, where you have to be 55+ to own it or to live in the community, what sort of amenities there are, any upcoming amenities, parking spots, guest parking, stickers, all that kind of stuff. So from the seller's point of view, that's kind of where I would start. The buyer's point of view. Now, when you're looking to buy a condominium, you have to make sure, and I've done a video previously, I believe, about understanding what kind of home works best for you. So you have to make sure that the condo meets what you're looking for. In condominiums, you have to have the right type of mortgage product in order to purchase a condominium. That usually require a more down payment, upwards of 20% down or 25% down. What I mean by that is this. If a condo costs $100,000, yet they don't carry the right amount of reserves that the bank requires in order for you to use like a 3.5% down payment, like FHA, or a lower conventional product, be it 3 or 5%, or even 10%. If they don't carry the right amount of reserves, you definitely will have to come down in more money, more cash, usually 20 or 25% of the purchase price in order to purchase that unit. The reason is because of this, in my understanding. If the building were to be destroyed as a whole, and the building as an entity did not have enough money to rebuild the building or replace for damages or whatever the case may be in terms of the damages that have, you know, come upon it, the bank's going to want their money back somehow. So the bank's going to want to protect their assets. So they're going to require that you, the homeowner, put more money down to secure that liability that they have on that property now, or that mortgage that they have on that property now. So 25% down of a $100,000 condo is $25,000. Now that's just the tip of the iceberg. The other things you need to consider are, with buying in general, an appraisal. It could range anywhere from a couple $100 depending on type of appraisal that you get done. You do have to pay for that. You can't wrap it up into your closing costs. At least I haven't been able to see that. It'd be kind of a bias if title companies allowed you to do that, because then they could kind of sway the appraisal based on, anyways, I'm getting kind of technical, but appraisal, inspection, definitely want to have an inspection company, and I'll do a later video about what an inspection is and how to look for it. Maybe I'll even get an inspector to do a video with me. That'd be kind of cool. Inspector. The other thing you definitely going to have to pay for is in the closing cost, you know, stamps, not physical stamps, stamps of recording the loan, you know, title searches, estoppel letters, things of that nature. Those things can be wrapped up about 2% of the purchase price. So if it's $100,000, 2% is $2,000, plus your 25 is $27,000, plus whatever application fees, a couple $100, association, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the case may be. So it can get expensive, $25,000, $27,000. Now obviously the more cash you put down on the property you purchase, that buys down the mortgage, which makes your payment more reasonable. So there's pluses and minuses to it, but you need to be prepared if you're gonna buy a condo, what sort of requirements are going to be necessary to do it, okay? So that was one thing, definitely. Once you've decided condos are good for you, you have the cash saved up, you need to make sure that you check on the requirements needed for every building that you're interested in. If you're working with a real estate professional like myself, definitely we're going to have a better understanding of what each building requires, and we're going to understand what you have. So credit score, definitely important to check. Background checks, even old convictions or felonies, misdemeanors, whatever, could come up, let's say 10 years ago. We all make mistakes. You definitely need to make sure to check up on that. Then also pet restrictions. A lot of people are turning their pets into service animals. We know what that means. And some are legitimate. I agree 100%. But pet restrictions. Rental restrictions. You know, will you be able to rent this out? How often you'll be able to rent it out? Parking spaces. How many parking spaces you'll get? Restrictions on vehicles. People don't think about this too often, but condominiums can restrict the types of vehicles that are allowed to park within their parking spots. It's private property. They can restrict work vehicles, vans, large trucks, SUVs, boats, forerunners, whatever you're trying to park there, make sure you can park it. Number of parking spots required by the unit. You know, a lot of times units are sold with a certain amount of parking spots. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. Maybe you want to look into the ability to purchase more parking spots. that might be important to you. Of course, the amenities. What are you trying to accomplish? You trying to get into by a lifestyle? Like, is it on the beach? Does it have pool, golf course, cricket? Not that people play cricket, but you shuffleboard, auditoriums, cafes, movie theaters, whatever the case may be. We have a lot of condo communities here in South Florida that have amazing amenities for the old and the young. So that's definitely something to consider. You also want to consider the ability to have guests. Important. How long can a guest stay for? How long can they park their car there until they're classified as a resident? Do they have to go through the application process? So on and so forth. So once you've considered all these different aspects of buying a condominium, it might be right for you, it might not be right for you, and that's totally cool. The whole point is to know education is king, right? So from the seller's point of view, we have some points covered. From the buyer's point of view, we have some points covered. Most important of all is that you need to make sure that you don't overpay for a particular condo, or that you don't sell for less than what it actually is worth, unless of course that's your objective. If that's your objective, hey, to each your own. But you need to make sure that you are working with a competent real estate professional that can help guide you through this process. So that's my video about condominiums. No, it's short, brief. Of course, we can go into much more greater complexity of that topic. If you have any questions or comments, or if you're looking for a real estate agent to represent you either as a seller or buyer, I'm more than happy to help. My name's Eddie, the Tattooed Realtor, and I appreciate you tuning in for this video. Be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and I'll talk to you guys very soon. Hope you have a great weekend. All right, bye.